People finishing their evaluation. I didn't spot that, sorry. But we do have a message from an Taoiseach to the members of the Assembly to thank you for your work. And we'll show that now. Thanks, Cathal.
Agreed Usha, Bawatlam Buikas a Gao live as an ober Havachtach atá dainte agah mar Kawalti de Hionol Saranach Kailu na bit ag Sulachta. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank each and every one of you for the important work that you've done as members of the Citizens' Assembly on Biodiversity Loss. Less than 12 short months ago, the Oireachtas mandated the establishment of the Citizens' Assembly. This was not the first time that the government and Oireachtas recognised the need for an effective response to the biodiversity crisis. However, as we know, getting from high-level political recognition of a problem to identifying practical solutions and actions is not an easy task. I firmly believe we need a societal response to the biodiversity crisis. That's why we committed in the programme for government to the establishment of a Citizens' Assembly. Your task was to identify how the state could improve its response to the issue of biodiversity loss. As you know better than anyone, this isn't straightforward. It required you to commit a significant amount of your time over a series of weekends in different venues to learn about, discuss and debate the issues with experts from Ireland and abroad. Most importantly, it required that you operate to the highest standards as a forum for deliberative democracy. I believe that the Citizens' Assembly on Biodiversity Loss was a highly innovative one. As you know, members were recruited using a new method that has ensured unprecedented levels of diversity among the membership. And I understand that you broke new ground in becoming the first Citizens' Assembly to undertake field trips to see for yourselves the issues on the ground. You've listened to all sides of the story: ecologists and biodiversity experts, farmers, economists, policymakers, turf cutters, fishermen, business representatives, NGOs, members of the public, and of course young people. Most importantly though, you've listened to each other. Your hard work and perseverance means that the Citizens' Assembly has now arrived at a conclusion. And over the next short while, your votes will be counted, your recommendations will be determined, and your report will be submitted to the Oireachtas. It will then be incumbent on the government and the Oireachtas to provide a comprehensive and reasoned response to your recommendations. As members of the Assembly, you've made an important civic contribution that I expect will lead to transformative changes in the design, coordination and implementation of policy. This will benefit not just the people of Ireland, but the entire ecosystem that we all depend on. So I want to pay tribute to you, the members of the Assembly, to your families who've supported your participation, and I want to thank in particular the chairperson of the Assembly, Dr. Evie Nahulawine, who I know has dedicated extraordinary time to this process. I also want to acknowledge and thank the members of the Expert Advisory Group and all of the speakers and panellists who contributed over the course of your work. So thank you all, and congratulations on reaching the finishing post, and best wishes for the future. Gurv Míl Magav, agus Gachra Arv Duntauchi.
Okay, it's up to me now. I'm not sure how I can follow that, but I'd just like to say a couple of words before we open it up to the floor, and some personal thoughts, perhaps. 10 years ago tomorrow, I sat in this exact spot and gazed into a sea of 100 blank faces for the first time. I thought that was going to be a very short job, and that in 3 or 6 months I could go back to doing my real work, but little did I realize that 10 years later I would still be doing this. And what a journey it has been. The greatest privilege of my life. I've been very fortunate in my life to have had a whole series of very cool jobs. Citizens' Assembly, working with ordinary, everyday people has been the thrill of my life as a civil servant. I am a man in a grey suit and a comb over, and I expected when I joined the civil service that I'd spend my time opening post and shuffling files from one desk to another. Nothing could have been further from the truth. Can I just say just a special thank you? In those 10 years, there are a couple of people who have been with me for all of that time. And some of them are in the room today. Mr. Matthew Ryan, the owner of the Grand Hotel, who has been here all the way along and understands what it is to have a room full of 100 people and how to get the best from you. He understands this like nobody else I know. So thank you and congratulations to Mr. Ryan. Conor O'Brien from Pi Communications, the man who looks like James Bond behind the camera there. Conor was here on the first day, and when I went to him and said, listen, I need somebody to live stream this event, needs to be on every PC and available to everyone in the country. And he said, no problem. And he's been saying no problem ever since. This year, he's been up and down the country with Tim, shooting beautiful films, and he did the field trip for us and the whole works. So he's one of those extraordinary people where the answer to the question is always yes, and when do you need it? So thank you to Conor and to Joe, actually, who was here on the first day as well. And finally, Martin Mackin from Q4. Q4 have been with us from the word go. Lorna is here this evening, and Ronan. Martin has been here from the word go as well, telling the story of the Citizens' Assembly, trying to reach into public consciousness. So I just wanted to say a special thank you to those three people who have been on this 10-year journey with me. If you'll indulge me for a minute, just maybe to talk about the staff, the Secretariat, who have been involved this year. We ran 2 Citizens' Assemblies this year simultaneously. We've had 13 weekend meetings in 7 calendar months. It will never, ever be repeated again. And not because it's a bad idea, because it's just simply too hard, you know. And what this small team has achieved in since April, has been nothing short of extraordinary. And it has been a great privilege for me to lead this team. I won't name you all. You know who you are. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. If I can just say a special thank you to our chairperson, Dr. Evie Nihuluwine. I had no idea what to expect. I knew what I had hoped for, and Evie was everything that you could possibly wish for in a chair of a Citizens' Assembly, you know, extraordinary. So again, congratulations and well done. An inspired choice by Taoiseach. Yeah. And finally, to you, the members, I've met hundreds of people in Citizens' Assemblies over the last 10 years. I couldn't have wished for a better group to go out on. So thank you. Thank you.
Gosh, I hadn't realised it's also your last assembly. Oh, it's momentous. Okay, I'll take over the mic at the end to say my own thank yous, but let's throw it to the floor now, and this is your opportunity to just share your thoughts and reflections before we break and cease, and we'll probably follow each other at some point and find each other in another point, but just if you want to share your reflections for today. And thank you, Kenneth, for getting the ball rolling.
It's more of a legal question before we... No.
You're always working, Kenneth. Fair play.
Okay, it's just when we get the report and we go and hound our politicians to make sure it's implemented, do we need to register with the lobby that we don't get in trouble? That's I'm just...
It's a super question. Art?
No, you're not a lobbyist or anything like that, but you have been a participant in an extraordinary process, and it is incumbent on you to talk to whoever you can to spread the good news of what's in the report and the importance of implementation. So you have spoken, I've listened to you for the last 7 months about this, you know, as a as a country, we often fail in the implementation phase of issues, and accountability has been so important. So it is expected of you, and citizens' assemblies all over the world do exactly this as well. They have fire in their belly and a lot of knowledge now in relation to these issues. So speak to whoever you want. Tell all your friends.
So would anyone else like to share, if we just pass around the microphones? Thank you, Hilary.
What I'm going to say, I'm guessing that everybody else in the room will probably say something similar. I mean, but just personally, obviously, working with all the team here, the Secretariat and everything, has been a fascinating experience. I've never had any involvement with any group, you know, and just seeing the way you work and your dedication and everything is just amazing, you know, and it's a real privilege to work with you. Evine, of course, is Evine. I mean, come on, what can we say about Evine? You are fantastic. You're just inspirational in your approach to everything. You're so reasonable, so fair. And we've had our rows, like, but we get over it, you know? We'll move on.
I'm glad we can still be friends, Hilary. Yeah.
But no, it is true. I mean, it's something that's very significant, and the value you've added as a chairperson to the process is very evident, because you can go to a lot of these things, and if the chairperson doesn't do what you've done, you know, you get a very different outcome. And just to everybody here, I guess I haven't spoken to everybody here. I haven't had the privilege of talking to everybody, but for those people that I have engaged with, I just think we're so lucky as a group to be here. I know it's a big commitment for us, but with the diversity, I've met so many people that I would never have come into my zone before, you know, unless it was in this environment, and it's really fantastic. And it's an experience that definitely has enriched my life, and, you know, I'll go out of here with a very different perspective on lots of things, especially biodiversity, of course, but lots of other things as well. So thank you for giving me the opportunity personally to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Hilary. Thank you for that. Liam.
I think that there'll be good results from the time we've all personally spent on this assembly. And the main reason why I have every good expectations for a good outcome is there's an election coming. Don't forget it. Make your vote count in the right place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Liam. Thank you very much. Rena?
I want to speak from someone who comes from a more shyer disposition, and I'm sure there's a lot of people in the room who are very much like that. I have to commend the group, everyone involved, from the committee to the Assembly themselves, that the level of inclusion and support to people to give their opinions and their values and to share that, and for it to be considered and not shot down, has been absolutely amazing. And I have noticed in myself, but as well in many other people here, who started off very quiet, very shy and quiet, and with the quiver in the voice, and I still have a quiver in the voice, but to actually now have the confidence to be able to put my voice out there and be heard. And I have to commend this assembly for giving me that ability, as well as others, yeah.
Sabrina, I'm delighted that you mentioned that, because it's a feature of every assembly, you know, and the empowerment of everyday citizens, you know, finding that you have a voice and you can stand up and express an opinion in a respectful environment is the cornerstone, the fundamental cornerstone of every citizens' assembly. And I know from speaking to some of you privately that you're not great at standing up and you don't want to do the public, but we understand the work that you have done at round tables, you know, and the contribution that you have made that wasn't very visible in the public sessions, but it didn't go unnoticed. So don't feel as if you need to be standing up and taking the microphone all the time to have played your part in this Citizens' Assembly. You haven't. It has been a journey for all of you. One thing I would say, and again, born out of experience, that don't leave the room today thinking you'd like to say something, but you just can't force yourself to. Use this opportunity in a very informal way to take the microphone and just tell us how you feel. Just in case any of you are thinking that, oh, there's a moment here, will I or won't I? Do it. Thank you.
Jean?
Okay, 2 minutes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How many times have we been in this room? And I think it's 9. And now we're in the last minutes of the Citizens' Assembly, our Citizens' Assembly, and I am the first and only citizen to speak from the top table of our Citizens' Assembly. So I have to ask, was it our Citizens' Assembly? Did we agree or decide the format of these meetings? Did we agree the agenda? Did we agree the topics discussed at the table, at the tables? Did we decide where to sit? To me, in some ways, it was a bit like at school, except school has like a 20 or 30 pupil-teacher ratio. But here, we have a 3-to-1 pupil-teacher ratio. We have 6 citizens and then a note-taker and facilitator. So we spent, as you know, a lot of time in open debate on the wording, but relatively little on the substantive issues. Largely, we rubber-stamped pretty much every proposal. And the proposals, originally they came in, the citizens didn't decide what went into the ballot papers. That was decided by the facilitators and note-takers. But then later on, everything was added by emails. But then once we got to the voting stages, it was open debate on the wording, but everything went in. I think there was one proposal that didn't make it. So I suppose that just seems strange. And that includes the wording, the technical wording of the referendum, which went in. And this is the human and substantive stuff. We didn't change that wording because, truthfully, nobody understood it. And I don't think anybody outside, you know, regular citizens, including us, really understand the wording of that constitutional amendment. So I suppose my fear is that, and my little concern is that, I mean, are we just providing political cover for that referendum? That's number one. And the other, now we have an awful lot of proposals, but are they just going to end up in a filing cabinet? So, thank you. I know it's slightly negative, some might say, but that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Jean. I'm sorry that you hear. Oh, sorry. Okay, Dan and Adele. Okay.
You're probably all tired of listening to me today, so I'll keep it short. I wouldn't agree with most of what Gina said there, to be honest with you. I don't feel like, I feel like I've learned an awful lot over the last 7 months, but I don't feel like I've been in school. And I think that's a very positive way to learn, to be honest with you. In regard to the recommendations, I do feel that they're representative of what was discussed at the tables I was at. Maybe others don't feel the same, but we're all entitled to our opinion on that one. and with regard to the arrangements for the meetings, as a member of the steering group, we have been involved in that aspect of it, maybe not to the degree at times that we might have liked to have been, but we were definitely included and we were consulted on the way things are run. So I do think this has definitely been our assembly. That's my opinion on it. Just from a personal point of view, I feel very privileged to have been selected to be part of this. I was very excited arriving at Dublin Castle on the first day to be involved in the process, and I feel very proud to have been involved in this process. And I look forward that when, in time when my children are old enough to be able to tell them about what I've done here over the last number of months, and hope that in time they will tell their children what Grandad did at his time at the Citizens' Assembly. And I look forward to being, and I'm getting a bit emotional now, I look forward to being a good ancestor, and I hope you all do as well. Thank you very much. It's been wonderful to meet you all and to work with you over the past month, so thank you all for that. I've spoken to the Secretariat about trying to put together a list of names and contact details, and as a member of the steering group, I'm happy enough to coordinate that. So I think you're going to be getting an email at some stage over the next couple of weeks, and I'll collate contact details for those who want to stay in touch, and I'll forward them out. And again, if you don't want to stay in touch, I won't take it personally. That's absolutely fine. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you for sharing that. And look, you're making other people cry now, for God's sake. It's supposed to be a nice thing. I didn't get to respond to Jean, but Jean, I'm very happy for us to have a chat. But just to share that won't necessarily be the technical wording of the referendum. The policymakers will decide that. This is just a suggestion to make to them that we are doing. And the drafts, sharing all of the drafts of the recommendations from the very first very long documents was something we specifically made a decision on to share on the members area. If there's elements of that we can improve on other people can improve on for next citizens' assemblies, let's have a chat about it, because I think there's always learnings from every assembly to improve for the next round and to improve for the next set of members. So just we can have a chat about all those things. Now, put it back to the floor. So there's loads of hands up. So Adele had her hand up, and then Louise and Keith. So let's just keep the microphones going round.
Yeah, I have it here.
Well, who's live? I'm live.
Hold on. Adele had it first, Robert.
Ah, no.
Sorry, Robert. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll do.
A different voice
how about
now,
John
sorry.
Travolta, Olivia Newton-John? You kick it off. I heard there's a karaoke machine later. Is that correct? No? Oh, I'm going now. Okay. Over to you.
Am I okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Robert. My legs are actually shaking a bit now. I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for Sabrina. I think she's brilliant, and I just want to thank her first of all, because she said that. I'm going to cry now too. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Adele, and I'm literally in my first year at college. But as soon as that letter came through the door, I knew it was something I really, really wanted to do. I'm usually fine at public speaking, sorry. I have such a big interest in climate change. I'm so passionate about it. So first of all, I really want to say thanks to the advisory group. The information you've given me has changed how I see things and how I go about my day. So I'm really thankful for that. And actually, one thing, from our very first table, the very first weekend, me and I think the 4 other people at that table bonded over one very specific and obvious reason, who we won't name, but sorry. To those 4 people, they're people I'll keep for the rest of my life. Like I said, I'm at the start of my career. I'm only young, and I've made connections and networks that I'm going to keep for the rest of my career. And to those of you who I haven't spoke to, listening to you has been monumental. I've changed my perspectives on things, and it's genuinely something I'm going to keep for a long, long time. So to all of you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Adele. Well done.
What can I say now? Seriously. Start crying? No. I'm going to say thanks to Jean. Because thanks to Jean, to Jack, to George, to every single person here, I don't know who Jack or George is, by the way, if we didn't have everybody who's completely different with different opinions, we'd all just be the same. And we'd all say the same thing, and we would get nowhere. So, I mean, I'm not going to get emotional over Gene, right? But I'm sorry, right? But I've been at a table twice with Gene, and yes, he'll give his opinion, but we have to give opinions. If we don't give opinions, we're just going to do the exact same thing over and over again. Anyway, there's two things I want to say. I often ask myself, how did I end up being here, right? And I remember when the letter came in the box, and I actually put it in the bin first, and went, junk mail, next. And then I looked at it again, but no, it's not junk mail. Maybe I'm interested in doing something because it might make a difference, whatever that is. And then, as a few people probably know, I became a granddad in the middle of this. Well, actually in the middle, at the very beginning of it. And only last night as I was coming in, I have a video, if you want to see it later on, I'll show you. My grandchild took her first steps. As I walked in the door, my son sent me the video. And she took her first steps as I was walking in this door. And I thought, that's exactly why we're here. Honestly, well, for me, it is exactly why we're here. This might make a difference in our lifetime, but really, it's going to make a difference in future lifetimes. And if we don't do something today, we may not regret it, but our children might regret it, and our children's children will look back, and they'll blame us, because we can make a difference. And I honestly do believe, this will make a difference. And I've seen it happen. I've said it to some people. There's a neighbour of mine, he loves his big gas-guzzling cars, right? That's what he does. I'm not into cars. And I was chatting to him about a year ago. We go out walking and met him, and I said, oh yeah, what's the story in the car? What are you doing? Matt, this biodiversity thing. Oh yeah, F that is what he actually said, right? And then later on, last year, he changed his car to an electric car. And he didn't change it because he's interested in biodiversity. He changed it because of money. That's why he changed it. And I do believe it's money that will make the difference in the end. Because, sorry, Matt, I was going to say something really emotional, but forget it. Damn it. I have to finish on an emotional thing. But basically, I think money is what's going to change the thing. But we, as consumers, have the power, I think, to do that. Because we go out and we will make a decision when we purchase something. I love the fact that we got the labelling thing into this. I know it's way down it, but I love the fact that it's in it. It's one of my things I pushed in for. I am disappointed we didn't put meat in, but let's go off that. And I think we will make the difference because we will decide what we purchase, and the people that are selling that to us will then decide how they get that to us. I think that's what will actually eventually make the difference. But I really do believe the future is brighter because we all came here for months. I walked into Dublin Castle, and I remember going down going, what the hell am I doing here? What's going to happen? Who's going to be here? It's all going to be, it's going to sound mad, it's all going to be hippies and airy fairies. That's what I thought it was, right? And again, I don't mean that in a bad way, but that's what it felt like. And it wasn't. It's real people. It's 100 real people, 99 real people, and one slightly special person, right? But it's 100 real people, and I really do believe we've represented our country and our future generations really well. And thank you to all, including Jean, because without us all, no, I really, really mean this. The other, sorry, I'm going to finish up, I will. The other 18,000 people who did not respond to that card, we are representing them, even though they don't know we represent them. We really do. Last story, right? Yeah? Okay, last one. My mother is a complete skeptical of this thing. When I started, she was very, and I told some people this. She says, what are you doing? You're going to biodiversity. What the hell is that about? Oh, it's about saving the planet, blah, blah, blah. It's about connecting the plants to the trees, to the birds, etc., etc. Just, you're wasting your time. And then about, after the third or fourth one, I went to her one Sunday. We always go on a Sunday and visit her. And she says to me, that hedge at the back, I think I'll let that grow. We used to have strawberries there once. She lives in a house, been there nearly 100 odd years. We used to have strawberries there, and we used to have potatoes. I think I'll put some of them back in. And she did, and I asked her why. She said, well, why not, she said. And that changed her a tiny, tiny, tiny bit. But that's all we need to do. Change each other a tiny bit, and the future will be much brighter. Thanks very much. I'll shut up now.
Thank you, Robert. Absolutely. Now, we'll go to Louise, and Keith had her hand up, and Liam will come back to you because you already had one go. So we'll just see if other people want a first go first.
Hello. I just wanted to speak to opinions. So I think obviously opinions are really important, and that's what Robert said, and that's why we're here. Because when we got that letter, we all had a really strong opinion about something, and we decided that we might voice it. And I think that you reflected that in your behaviour during the weekends. Like every Saturday night, I know not everyone stayed for dinner, but I did. And every Saturday night, there was someone different from the secretariat at my table. Tim was there a couple of times, but usually someone different. And because they were there, they heard our opinions and we heard theirs, and they took on board what we might have thought of that day. And then that were changed the day after and the following weekends. So although some people mightn't agree with me, I'd like to thank you for being receptive and kind of responsive to what we were saying. And also thank you to everyone who decided to have a sing-song with me in the bar every night after dinner, because that was probably my favourite part of the whole Citizens' Assembly. So thank you, and I don't know who to give this to.
Thanks, Louise. Thank you very much. There'll be no sing-songs tonight.
I've probably said enough already, but Cathal did tell me that when the letter originally came in, I was put on the shortlist, and Cathal confessed to me that I was his last draft replacement, and I'm sure he's been regretting that decision ever since. But I just have to say that we have a room full of like 100 really motivated, really educated people here now who have done basically a master's crash course in biodiversity. It'd be an awful shame to let it disappear into the ether. Be nice to find a way to utilize all that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Keith. So we'll send the microphone back to Liam, and if anyone's thinking about maybe saying something as well, they can. And I'll send it to Micheál at the back.
Oh, thank you. My involvement in this assembly has progressively made me a better Christian, and it has enabled me actually to save lives. I've actually saved lives, quite a few. You might remember about the middle of last year or around autumn time, I had a terrible problem with pigeons and jackdaws. I decided to let them live. As I got to understand more and more about what biodiversity is all about. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Liam. We'll get the microphone to Nicole after Micheál at the back, and then we'll go to David. So Micheál, Nicole, and then David.
Sorry, I'm prompted to respond to that kind of, we'll call it critique of the process of was it really ours? And fair play to Jean for putting the question. They're good questions. And I would say that in as far as it could possibly be, that I think genuinely it was and is yours, but also, you know, as member of the expert advisory group, to some extent also ours. In other words, that I think that, as people have said, there was a lot of interaction. But what you had was massive amount of presentations by 80 plus different speakers, a lot then of debate and advice and some input from us. And after that then, it's a mystery. It's an act of faith. But actually, it's the power of crowd wisdom that goes to work. What comes out of that in terms of the report from each table. Like, I could never have predicted what it would be. Sometimes we'd be scratching our heads wondering, why was that prioritized and not something else? But it's the actual power of the mechanism that's what fascinated me about the whole thing. And that's what gives me great faith, actually, in this particular process, that you can't predict what it will be. And I would have very good confidence that every word that's in those 160 recommendations was written by yourselves, in the sense that it's written down at tables and spoken by people. And then the tires were kicked over and over again at the plenary sessions, and a lot of good work was done. So I think you should feel very proud that we got a lot of expert knowledge. You then have this massive amount of filtering and sieving. What comes out of that? I think you can really take ownership of it. And the most important thing then, speaking as a former public servant, I think it will have the effect of giving a good kick in the ass to the system. So well done.
Thanks, Micheál. Now to Nicole.
Hi. About 25 years ago, I was in London. I was working and I was volunteering in a group that brought about 50 Sikh Indian farmers from India to London. They wanted to walk to the Bank of England to stop genetic seeds being used in India. And I remember at the time, like, it was a really big job. We had worked at it for ages, and these fabulous men came, and we put them up, and then we walked through the city of London. And afterwards, like, sitting down afterwards going, oh my God, they're gone back now, and has anything been done? And no one's voices. You know, I remember city people on the street going, what are you doing? You're just hippies, you know. And I was like, no, I have a regular job, you know. I'm doing it because I believe that, you know, their voice should be heard. So it's a real privilege to, 25 years later, to be sitting here as part of a group that is changing and the future for many people. And we're all regular people. We're all not hippies, and you know, which is so wonderful. It's a great thing, and it's a great thing to hear young people feel that strongly about it. So I'm so privileged to be here. I learned so much from the steering group, and you know, from everything, you know. So thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Nicole.
Hello.
David.
Hello, yeah. Well, for myself, I'm naturally suspicious and very cautious, and that's how I approached the assembly here, and I think I shared the same anxiety as anybody else did coming in for the first day. But over time, my trust and confidence grew in the process, you know, and I didn't meet what I expected. I found that, this is my perception of it, and I could be wrong, I found that we were able to say things that perhaps civil servants couldn't say, you know. We were able to say things that not everybody gets the opportunity to do so. I got a chance to, you know, it can be very, you can feel very excluded when you're living in a caravan at the side of the road, which I've done for 10 years. I've also got an education, so I'm not typical in that way. But I didn't feel that here. I felt that the guys here, Cathal, Art and Aoibhinn, really wanted us to express our stuff, and that if we didn't, they'd be disappointed in us. So I think that was good. And I'm not very good at drafting. I'm not a great committee man. And I needed help to get my little bit into Word form and onto into the process. And I got that help, you know. Now, we're going to push this. It's all going to be voted on. Some of us are going to get what we want, and some of us aren't going to get what we want. And then, as we go forward, you know, our recommendations are going to meet the challenge of, you know, the huge global corporate finance thing, which is a machine, you know. And who's going to challenge all that? You know, I don't know. So, you know, we've got a process which is going to go on for a few years. You know, this won't end now or in a few years or however long. And we may have success and we may not have success. But I'm a big believer that how you deal with failure is as important as how you deal with success, you know. And I feel that we were all respected here. We were all treated well. And that's really important. That doesn't happen often, you know, but it happened here. So I'm very grateful to everybody. I'm not going to name any names or anything, but I felt very much part of everybody here and what we did. And I'm very glad to have been part of it. So thanks very much, guys.
Thank you, David. I'm going to go to Nadine on table 8.
Just in relation to what Sabrina and Edel said earlier, I just want to say thank you to all the facilitators at all the tables. I'm not someone who raises my hand in class. I don't put my opinion out there. But they made sure at every single table that everybody's voice was heard and no one dominated and that everyone had an equal. say in what went up to the final recommendation. So just thank you.
Well said, Nadine. And I was going to thank the team from Quality Matters at the end, but while we're on the subject, because you've opened it, and thank you for doing that, a huge, huge thank you to all of the facilitators and note takers, because this process wouldn't happen without you. And it was one of my first questions, I think, when I started. It's like, but how do we know what they're talking about? It's like, it's okay. There's two professional people at the tables who will record everything and make sure that everybody gets to talk about it. You're an integral part of the process, and you've been part of it and all of the discussions from the word go. So to all of the facilitators and the note takers, and Caroline for steering, and Philip, and all of the team from Quality Matters, thank you very, very much for bringing us to this conclusion. Mary, yeah, sorry.
You have no idea how glad I am that this is not a typo or a legal element that I want to say. So firstly, just as a member of the EAG, thank you so much, both for the organisers for having us involved in the first place, but to all of you for letting us be engaged. It was such a bloody honour and privilege to be engaged with you through the months that this went on. And I depressingly realised one is probably the most important thing I've ever been involved in, and that was as a fly in the wall for the main part. So thank you. The other thing was Liam reminded me of my first time coming into Dublin Castle, and also of the field trip. And now I too may get emotional. And it's because the person I spent my time with on the field trip was Howard Woods. Yeah, as I said, I always get emotional. And he told me many stories, including of having a pet jackdaw and training the jackdaw to, or rather the jackdaw trained him by getting him to go out and lift stones and stuff like that so he could get snails. So in saving the jackdaw, I was thinking of Howard in that, and how pleased he would be that there were so many recommendations about education, because he was the gentleman on the very first day who flagged the significance of biodiversity in education and raised that. So I think, I'm not going to say thank you on his behalf, because I didn't know him very well at all, but I think that he would be truly delighted at the recommendations that you came out with on that aspect. And I think he'd love also that Liam saved the pigeons and the jackdaws as well. But congratulations to you all, and thank you again.
Thank you, Mary.